Welcome to the Community Living Education Project's Sharing Possibilities for Community Connections Learning event. The Community Living Education Project, also known as CLEP, is a program through Rutgers School of Public Health. CLEP is committed to providing individual guidance, mentoring, and education regarding community living resources for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities living in the state of New Jersey. The CLEP team, many who are family members themselves, can serve as a bridge for families whose loved ones may be seeking residential supports outside of the family's home. Today's webinar, Assistive Technology for Increased Independence and Community Integration, is being presented by Mr. Michael Murata and Ms. Naomi Leibowitz, representing Disability Rights New Jersey. To ensure the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will be muted during today's event. To interact with the host and presenters, please use your Q&A or chat option on your screen. Topic-specific questions will be addressed as long as time allows. For consideration to all who are attending today's session, we encourage you to keep your questions as general as possible. You will also notice in the chat section that you will see a link to today's presentation slides. At this time, I would like to welcome today's presenters, Mike and Naomi. Welcome.
Thanks, Melanie. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Excited to be here with you today and speak a little bit about, I would like to think, probably my favorite topic to talk about, which is assistive technology. So we're excited to be here sharing with you today. I saw that Colleen dropped the link to the slides in the chat already. So again, just to reiterate, there is the link to the slides. Naomi just dropped it in as well. There is a QR code if you want to scan it with your phone, you can do that too. The slides are open for you to view. And if you want to go back to visit the slides after we're done on your own device, a lot of the tools and web resources that we share are linked directly in the slide. So if you click pictures, it will take you right to those resources. That way you're not frantically writing down notes of what things are called. Anything that we show is linked in there, so you'll be able to get to it. So now you can just sit back and enjoy and kind of soak it in a little. As we've already seen, the chat window is active. I love it. I'm a big believer of the chat during any webinar or training. So please feel free, put information in there, participate through that. We'll have a couple times during the webinar where we'll ask you questions, and we would invite you to drop some responses in the chat. You can also put questions or thoughts there as we go through. We are looking at it, but we may hold off on answering one of your questions or comments until we know it's coming up related to the slides that are coming. So don't feel like we're ignoring you. We're not ignoring you. We will get to it at some point. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll leave some time at the end for some questions. We'll see how that goes. I know I can tend to be a little long-winded, so we'll see how that goes with time. But you'll have our contact information. And of course, you can reach out at any point to Naomi or myself, and we are happy to help you. Three big things we'll talk about. One, we want to give you a little background about who we are and how our organization can help you in New Jersey. And that's really important for us to understand, for you to understand more about the resources we provide and the services we provide. Then we'll talk about tech a little, talk about that great part where we'll talk about technology. And throughout, we'll have some conversation and some sharing through the chat or any of the other questions as we go. So that's my big plan. And I know that as I'm speaking, Naomi is manning the chat window excellently. So please feel free to drop things in there as we go. Let me tell you a little bit about us. And for anybody who's joining us outside of New Jersey, I don't know, I'm sorry for you. You should be here in New Jersey with us. But know that we are the Assistive Technology Act project for New Jersey. And so we are funded federally to provide resources. If you're joining us from another state, there is a center in your state as well. So there is every state and territory has an Assistive Technology Act project. So if you're not familiar with yours, at some point in this, or maybe Naomi can hunt down the link, we can get you a link to the resource of the Assistive Technology Act programs website that can give you a link to your center in your state. And so that will give you the information. And a lot of the work that we do is the same in all the states. Look at that. Naomi's got it in the chat already. Thank you. So you can click on there and find your state and then learn what they do and who they are. But for us in New Jersey, we are the implementing entity for the AT Act. Our lead agency is the Department of Labor. So they support us with this grant and moving through the monies that we receive federally. I'll give you a little sense of what we do. It's kind of a twofold here. How we did what we do for the past year. And that might give you a sense of the resources that we have available to you across the state. We have 3 large services that we do. One is device demonstration, which is the ability for a consumer, a family member, a professional, whoever it might be, anybody from New Jersey, who needs information about assistive technology that may support someone with a disability. And so this is a demonstration starts with someone saying, I know I need something, but I have no idea what I need. And so you can reach out to us, and we can do these virtually. We can do these in person. We have subcontractors that help us provide these. And basically we can talk with you about what tools might make sense for your needs, and then give you the opportunity to see these tools and compare them and make a decision about what might be best for you. So this is very individual focused. This is about an individual's needs. And this is one of our state level activities. We do this out of our office. We also do it with several subcontractors that help us serve the entire state. We have Advancing Opportunities and also Adam Kress Consulting, who does this for us. Another service, so think of this about kind of like a little bit of a progression. We meet with an individual, help them kind of narrow down what might work for them. Well, then we've all done this. If you go out and purchase something that is not right for you, now you're stuck with something that you can't use because it wasn't the right thing. So we offer a device loan program. And what happens with the device loan program, which is our main loan program, is housed in Advancing Opportunities, and their website is assistive-technology-center.org. Basically, the Lending Center is a free service for anyone in New Jersey, and we will loan you assistive technology for 3 weeks at a time that you can try it. And that kind of gets people over that, what I like to call that technology honeymoon phase. Like, oh, this is the most amazing thing ever. And then there has this weird turn at some point where they're like, well, it's not that great. I don't know if it's really working. I hate that thing. And then they have this kind of transition where if it wasn't the right device, that's kind of the arc of what happens. But now we have this opportunity where people can try things and see it in the situations and in the environments they're going to be using it in, and explore it a little bit and decide if that works for them. The beauty of this, and really one of the things I love about our loan center, is that this has zero cost to anyone. We will ship the equipment to you, and we will provide you information and resources to ship it back. So there is zero cost for you. And that to me is great. If you're interested in the loan program, you can go to the website on the screen and you can browse the entire library of equipment. You can see pictures and short descriptions, and then you can request a loan. So that is our loan center. Our third big state level activity that I want to talk about is our device reutilization, which allows us to take equipment that is not being used in the state, collect it, refurbish it, clean it, sterilize it, and put it back into the community for individuals who need it. So imagine all those equipment. I was telling somebody the other day, actually I was telling William, who's in the chat now, who works with us. I was saying to him, you know, as a parent of kids who played sports throughout their entire teenage years, I think I had every crutch and boot and brace there might have been. And then when my children moved out of the house, I'm stuck with all this stuff that we're not using anymore. So it's this idea of getting equipment out of your basements and your garages and your sheds, and getting it back into the community for someone to use it. And we partner with Goodwill Home Medical, which is down in Camden County. They do serve the state, but they serve it from their centralized location in Camden County. And basically what they do is they collect equipment, fix it, refurbish it, do whatever they need to do. And then they put it back into the community for a ridiculously reduced rate. So for individuals, they can get equipment that might not be able to be purchased any other way. And so that is a great service. Goodwillhomemedical.org is their website. So definitely check them out. Give you a sense of our reach for the past year. In those three areas, we did 541 demos in 2021. We did loans of 481 devices, and our device reutilization served 6,457 people. If we look at the money saved in that reutilization, it was over $1.4 million that we're able to save for people across this past year. So that is really exciting for us. Then we do other stuff too, and I'll move through these relatively quick. We do a lot of things like this. We do training and technical assistance, connecting with organizations and individuals to show them the power of assistive technology. And we also, through our work at Disability Rights New Jersey, we can provide some support to individuals for any type of information referral to other services. I think one of the key things that I like to point out to people, in our service, we do not buy anyone assistive technology. We are strictly a service that helps people identify a tool and service that will work best for their needs. So I think that's really important. So what we end up having happen is we support individuals with finding a path to actually purchase that device once they're ready. We do have some free stuff. We can give out some little more free stuff. I wanted to give it a big header of free stuff. This is great. We have paired and partnered with the ATIA, the Assistive Technology Industry Association, and we have purchased access to their learning center for the entire year. Anyone across the state of New Jersey, anyone, you could be an individual with a disability, a family member, a professional, it doesn't matter. Anyone can sign up for their learning center and watch any of their recorded assistive technology webinars for free for the entire year. If you're a professional and you need CEUs, that also covers CEUs as well. So it's a really great opportunity. We're really excited about this, getting more information out about assistive technology. So the information is there. That is about the lending center itself, about the learning center, which is atia.org/learning-center. And then we have this little form that we request people fill out because we have to verify that you are in New Jersey or work in New Jersey. This is for New Jersey people. Again, everybody else, sorry if you're not from New Jersey, perhaps your state has something similar. So if you use that scan code there, it will bring you up to a form that you simply fill out, and it will give you the free access to the Learning Center. And that is at bit.ly/ATAC-ATIA. All right. And hopefully at some point soon, we're going to bundle some of these resources together so that people can watch some webinars on a certain topic and then come together in a live presentation like this and just talk about them. We'll bring people in, AT professionals, to lead the discussion. So that's coming soon. We're working on that now. Other resources, we have our website. When all else fails, visit our website, at4nj.org. Everything we do lives there. All of our resources, all the ways to connect with us. We do have a YouTube channel that's linked on our website as well. Everything we do, we record and then we post to our website. We have entire virtual conferences there that we've hosted. We've had multiple webinars. Our center hosts an Assistive Tech Town Hall every week where people get together and just chat about assistive technology. All of that is posted there. So you can definitely check all that out. And there is tons of information there. All right, that was good. In my mind, I thought if I can get through that in 15 minutes, we'll be good. And look at that, 14 minutes. That's great. So let's talk about some technology. Before we talk about tech, I think it's important to set the stage a bit. And I think that we started to do that when we were discussing a little bit about the idea of the AT demos. And that does a good job of setting the stage a bit for this idea of helping to figure out what an individual needs. And so let's set the stage with the actual definition of assistive technology. AT is any item, piece of equipment, software program, or product system that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a person with a disability. That's really important because what we're going to find is that AT, Martha, I'm going to answer your question right as you ask it, because I think that's a really important question. Does assistive tech include things like water picks and bidets for people with developmental coordination disorder? If that device is helping to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of that individual, yes, it is assistive technology. And that's the really interesting piece here, is that we could spend the next 45 minutes just saying all the things that are assistive technology. But what's interesting is that what might be assistive technology for an individual that Martha's thinking about in the chat might not be assistive tech for me, because it does not meet this criteria of increasing, maintaining, or improving functional capabilities. So when you start to think about that, the concept of assistive tech gets very broad all of a sudden. And it becomes one of those things where everything can be assistive tech, as long as it helps to meet that need. And I think what gets really interesting about this is that in addition to AT, and you're going to learn very quickly, I'm a huge lover of all things technology. You're going to learn that very fast in this. But what's interesting is that while I might think that assistive technology is awesome for everybody, where are the individuals at with their comfort level with technology? And that becomes a key piece. Are they comfortable enough? And look at some of our questions here. Are they tech savvy? So I could give you some great examples, and even some of the things we're going to talk about now are kind of high tech. If that's not where the person's at, then that might not be the right tool for them right now. Not saying it won't ever be the right tool, but it's just not the right tool right now. Do they fear tech? Are they open to learning about new things? More importantly, what does the person want to accomplish? What are they looking to do? I could rattle off 100 different pieces of technology, but if none of them connect to what that person's actually trying to accomplish, that was wasted energy for all of us at this point. So thinking about that and asking a lot of questions. When we do our demonstrations, it's just a lot of questions. It's us asking questions, the person kind of digging into their need a little bit to help us identify what it is they're looking for. Maybe they already have technology and they don't even realize that they have the features that might help them. That's a great situation, because then we can enlighten someone without having to say at the end, well, now you got to go buy something, because they might already have it and they're just not using it effectively. And I think what's interesting, and the quality of this video is not great, but the message of this video is awesome. It's worth the 30 seconds. And so basically it starts with the person asking, the daughter asking the father, how is it going with the new iPad that we bought you for your birthday? And it's in another language, but really this will be universal.
Sag mal, Papa, habe ich dich noch gar nicht gefragt. Wie kommst du denn eigentlich mit dem neuen iPad zurecht, was wir dir zum Geburtstag geschenkt haben?
Gut.
Mit den ganzen Apps kommst du klar?
Was denn für Apps? Geh mal bitte einen Schritt zur Seite. So. What's it?
So you get kind of the idea of this real fast, this idea of the family buying an iPad for the father and asking how it's going, and it's going great. But what he really needed was a cutting board. And so what did he do? He used that iPad as a cutting board and then rinsed it off in the sink and dropped it in the dishwasher, all those great things we should not do with technology. But the idea is clear. If we're not asking the right questions, if we're not effectively considering what the person needs, we're not going to come to the right answer. Sure, it'd be great to give everybody an iPad. That'd be wonderful. I mean, I'm staring at a whole rack of technology around me right now. That would be wonderful. But if it's not appropriate, why would we do that? It just doesn't make sense. And so we think about this, and let's start with meeting people where they are with what they have, because I think that is a great place to start. We start here all the time with individuals, and we start with this idea of built-in accessibility features. All of us right now in front of us probably have a smartphone sitting within 3 feet of us right now, right? We always need to know but kind of where our phone is at all times. Those phones or your tablet or your computer have an incredible array of features built into them that we can use to customize the experience for someone and perhaps meet their needs without purchasing anything else. And so we think about this, every device you have, we don't even need to put it in the chat. Like, what do you have? An iPad, an iPhone, an Android phone, doesn't matter. Whatever you have has these basic features in it. It has the ability to read things out loud to you with text to speech. It has the ability to recognize your voice and do something. You can have the screen read to you. There's a keyboard on there that you can use. And then there's also the ability to have alternate access that is built into every device now that we use. So when I'll throw this out there to the chat, and Eileen points out, great, thank you. Eileen, Kindles do as well. Virtually every device you have has some level of built-in support. And I don't know how many times that's where I start and people have kind of an aha moment, like, well, wait a second, why don't I just turn that on, what I have, and then I can use it? Great, that's awesome. So if you want to put in the chat, if there's a feature you use or you know about on one of your devices that's really powerful, throw it in the chat so other people start to learn about it. We'll highlight a couple, but we're certainly not going to get into all of them right now. But there are so many things. There, Eileen points out a feature on the device to signify when you have a message, it will flash a light. So if you don't hear the noise, you'll get the visual representation as well. So feel free, drop those in the chat as we go. I'm going to continue rolling on. That way I make sure that I hit all of the stuff. Yeah, and points out in the chat, and I think that's a really valid concern. There's a lot of features there, but some of us are afraid to explore them a little. And what I would say, Anne, and to everyone else, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. I appreciate the fear of this, especially when you ask people to change things on their own phone. I feel like that is incredibly personal for people. And I've had groups where people will change it on an iPad or a tablet or a computer because it doesn't feel as personal. But the minute we go to somebody's phone, that feels like an actual extension of them and they get very afraid. And so what I would say, and there's a bunch of resources actually on the last slide, a couple slides back, all of the pictures are linked to resources that you can go to on each of the manufacturers has pages for their accessibility features where you can watch videos, see what they do before you turn them on. One of my big suggestions to people always, and if you're scared, anybody else who's scared, when you go in the accessibility features, read the description of what it does and only turn one thing on at a time. That way you can turn it right back off and you know what you did. I have some people that will go in there and just click all the buttons and turn every single thing on, and then their phone will stop working. And they'll say, well, those things broke my phone. And we don't know what broke anything because they turned everything on. So be careful with that as you go forward. Here, as we move through some of the examples, your Mac and your iPhones and iPads, so your iOS devices, there's an entire list of features there that you can explore. Go into settings, scroll down to accessibility, and all of these features will show up. Everything from enlarging text on the screen to dictation to allowing you to control what's read on the screen to you and how it's read. All of those things are in that accessibility setting, including things like the simplest experience for people who struggle with text could be turning on the speech. If you have an iPhone and you're looking to turn on the speech so it reads your screen, there is a solution called Speak Selection. I'll put the little video on so we can watch it. When you turn that on, you simply hold your finger down on some text and then select the text. And then one of the options pops up and says speak.
It's safe, secure, and confidential. Your information and privacy are protected.
So when you turn that, if I was on a soapbox right now, I'd say this should just be on automatically, because any of us who have selected text on our phones see that little toolbar that pops up. Well, now one of my buttons there just says speak, and I could simply select any text I want and have it read to me. I can change the voice, I can change the speed, I can change how it highlights. You'll notice that my phone is set up to highlight in 2 colors. So the sentence is highlighted one color, the word being spoken is highlighted in another color. You can change all of that. Those are all features you can change, but that is a simple solution to pick things on the screen and have them read. Another solution on the screen is to turn on a feature called Speak Screen, which then allows you to take 3 fingers. So this is a 3-finger swipe, 3 fingers down from the top of your screen, and it will read the entire page for you. Maybe you're in a book, maybe an email, whatever it is, a website, you can listen to the entire screen. Different from a screen reader, where screen readers will read text, but will also read all the elements on the screen. Screen readers are predominantly used with people with visual impairments or who are blind. That is predominantly who uses them. But I would challenge you to think broadly about this, about what is the need of the individual I'm working with, or what is my need? Because perhaps I need to hear things read aloud because I don't recognize what a banner might be. And so those kinds of things. And so here's an example of a screen reader.
Voiceover on. CarPlay. United States Census 2020. Image. Navigation. Landmark. Menu. Button. And. Navigation. Collapsed. Menu. Expanded. Frequently asked questions. Link. Instructions. Link. The
I'm going to stop
2020
there. You
Census.
get kind of the idea, but we got to a point where it's going to read now. But did you catch all that other stuff that it read aloud to me? It helped me navigate the items on the screen. Whether I had vision or not doesn't really matter at this point. What it helped me with was navigation of the screen. So if I struggle with that, that's where I like to think of these things broadly and not get kind of confined by the buckets that tools put these features in. This is not a tool for someone who's visually impaired. This is a tool for someone who needs help navigating a screen. That's what it is. And that could be anyone. And so that's the difference of some of these tools, but you see some of the more involved support that this tool will give versus another. I mentioned the idea of using our voice. You are now at a point where you can use your voice to control just about every device you have, both inputting text and also asking questions and getting responses. And I think that's really important. If you're on a Windows computer, you have very similar features. The ability to have it read out loud to you, which is called a narrator, magnification and high contrast, captions, all of these features are there. They're just waiting to be turned on in your computer. If you're using things like, if you've got a new Windows computer and it has the Edge browser in it, the really nice feature, one of the greatest features of that tool is right in the browser. If you go to the settings, there is a choice there that says read aloud, and it will read the entire page. You don't have to put anything in there. You don't have to turn anything on. That feature is just there. And I always wonder how many people even know that that feature is there. Maybe not many. And so, one of my challenges to you too is to share some of this information with others about how easy it is to turn these things on for you. In an Android system, and I'm going to move through these quick because all the systems have very similar features. I have text to speech. I have the ability to command things with my voice, closed captions, magnification, Braille displays. If I have an individual who's blind who uses Braille, they can use a Braille display to share information with them as they go forward. On an Apple device, this is called Speak Selection. That was the one we looked at before. On an Android, same feature, but it's called Select to Speak. This is why when I suggest to people to go into their settings, spend a minute and read what these things say, because that will help you get a sense of the strategy of how to use it. If you're in Chrome, I know a lot of people are using Chromebooks. They are cheap. They allow people to get quick access to the web and web-based services. Tons of features there as well. Screen readers, speaking out loud, magnification, dictation, all of these features are there. And you could certainly go back and watch the videos again when we're done. One of the other things I like, and I like just pointing these things out to people, they're not really built-in accessibility features, but they are features that support us as we go forward. In the Chrome browser, you have the ability to group open tabs together into colored tabs. So now I can organize everything I have open. And that is a really great indication of how I move through my day. That is my browser at any given time with, I don't know, roughly 50 tabs open. But what I can do now is group them under certain topics and only open the ones I'm looking at that moment. And so that is built right into your browser, the ability to go to any open tab, right-click your mouse and add it to a group. You can make new groups and you can add it to a group that you already have existing. And so thinking about how you might do that. Looking at captions, we have the captions that are running in Zoom right now. You have the ability to get the transcript if you'd like it. In Chrome, in the browser, you can turn on the live caption feature, which allows you to move through any website, and the minute some media starts playing, captions automatically pop up for you to provide some additional support. You can do the automatic captions in things like slides. There they are. Here's the slides captions I just turned on. I went to the settings in my presentation and turned them on. So those are there automatically. That can happen in slides, in Google Meet, it does the same thing. So a lot of different ways we can provide some support for individuals as they go forward. If I shift gears for a second and think about other areas that we spend a lot of time working with people on, it's supporting them with technology in this area of executive function. And you think about this idea of what is executive function, and the definition that we have here, a set of mental processes that help connect past experience to present action. That's what it means. But look at the activities that fall under this category. So it's about performing activities like planning, organizing, strategizing, paying attention to, remembering details, managing time and space. These are the areas that people need support. If they're going to live independently in the community, and they're going to have a job and go to school and basically everything we do, these skills that they need to have are ripe for technology support. And I'll throw this out again. I want to bring your smartphone into the conversation here. How do you use your smartphone to support your executive function? Well, I'm sure we use calendars. You can drop it in the chat. We use a calendar. How many of us take pictures of things to remember? My entire photo roll is filled with pictures of where my car is, a Wi-Fi code of something, all of those things in my photo roll as a strategy to help me manage activities when I'm out there. Shopping lists, reminders, we're starting to see these things. These are things that are built right into our phone. I was like, one of the funniest things I ever had, a conversation about tech with my son when he was getting ready to graduate high school. He's now 26, but when he was graduating high school, he said to me, he said, you know, he had an iPhone, by the way, I need you to tell me a good app to use to organize myself. I said, great, use your calendar app. No, I don't have one of those. You're going to need to tell me a good one. And I said, no, the calendar comes as part of your phone. Of course you have that. And we went through this whole thing and I bet him $5. I won the $5 because his phone had a calendar. But the point was, how many people don't know the things they have? You know, I spend a lot of time talking to groups, whether it's young children or transition age or adults, whatever it might be. And people have a lot of conversation about this idea of, well, it's different now with students that are moving into that transition age into the community because they've grown up with technology. They are digital natives. They know everything about tech. And I'm here to burst bubbles and say they do not. They know about the tech tools they want to know about. I can ask anybody in that age bracket how TikTok works, and they'll be able to tell me, or how Instagram works, or Snapchat. If I ask them to show me how the Reminders app works on their phone, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to hear crickets. So it's about understanding the power of what they have, and thinking about what that can do for them, and thinking of creative ways to do that. You know, we have the calendar app that comes on our phone, but you think about that calendar app. If you're a non-reader, a calendar app is incredibly difficult to navigate. It's all text. We can put colors in there that might help, but it's mostly text. So thinking about other ways to support that, here's a couple examples of some apps. The one on the left is called the Visual Schedule Planner. And that is a tool that allows you to chunk a day into 3 sections, color coding with text labels, but those labels can also have pictures on them, as well as checklists to help me finalize and finish a task. If you look at the far left there, it says morning and it says feed the dog. And then there's a little picture of a checklist on a clipboard there. If I don't remember the steps to feed the dog, I click that checklist and an entire list of steps pops up. Those list of steps have text and pictures and audio to support me. Those are ways to help me be productive and independent as I move through my day. In the middle of the day, in that picture on the left, it says bus to home at 3 o'clock. Has a picture of my house, bus to home is a label, and then you see a little film reel. If I forget how to get to the bus, I can embed a video there that shows me walking to a bus. So I can watch that and then do that task. So thinking about ways to layer some of these supports in. The picture on the right, the 2 pictures on the right are a reminder app. Again, a reminder that adds other layers in beyond standard reminders, which just give text. This has text with timers, with pictures, and it also can be tied to an audio clip. So suddenly I can hear the reminder in addition to seeing the picture and seeing the text there. So really different levels of support there for an individual, for helping them navigate this issue they're having. The issue here is organization and task completion. It doesn't matter, and it's always tricky to say this to people, it doesn't matter what your disability is. This is the need you have that you're struggling with, and here's a tool that can help you do that. And so you'll hear over and over again that I don't show tools for people with physical disabilities or tools for people with cognitive disabilities. It doesn't matter. I show tools that meet a certain set of needs. And I think that's a really important way to look at tools. It will kind of open your mindset a little bit to some of these ways you can use technology. Here's another one. The clip, the visual schedule planner I mentioned in the previous slide, when it does the checklist of steps, this is the actual checklist app. It is its own tool. It's called First Then, and I can create checklists, and then people can walk through them with pictures and text and audio to give them the support. Note taking as we go through our day. How many of us are out in the community and need to remind ourselves with notes? Some of us dictate notes into our phone. Some of us use perhaps audio synced to handwritten notes. So there's a lot of different pens out there from the LiveScribe company, and they are pens with audio recorders. So as I write my notes, the pen is cataloging what's happening in the environment as I write it, so that when I go back to my notes later, how many of us have notes? I was about to pick up one of my bad notes on my desk, but how many of us have a note that made perfect sense when you wrote it, but 2 days later, you have no idea why you wrote that and what you're supposed to do with it? And I won't hold it up. I'm looking at a note like that right now on my desk. It's here. I don't know what it means. Maybe it'll at some point, I'll remind myself of what it means. But with this, I can write a note and then if I want to listen to that moment in time when I took the note, I simply take the pen and tap it against my handwritten note, and it plays me the audio that was happening in the room, in the environment when I wrote that note. So now I could hear, oh, this is what triggered me to write this note. And so these are pens, an actual pen with an actual notebook. So again, thinking about navigating devices and managing tools, this person now needs to have both of these products with them at all the time. The pen, which has to be charged, and the special notebook always has to be together, or else the system falls apart. Maybe you're just looking for a way to catalog notes. And so there are tools called the Rocketbook, which is an app-enabled notebook. It's a reusable notebook that you write notes in. When you're done writing notes on any page, each page has a QR code at the bottom. You take a picture of that QR code, and the tool automatically sends your notes to whatever place you identify. If you look at the middle of the screen on the top there, it's all the different places that these notes can go. So I would send them to my Google Drive, and I would handwrite my notes, take a picture, and my notes would automatically be uploaded digitally into my Google Drive. So I wouldn't worry if I lost the notebook, or I always have my notes with me, regardless of whether I have the notebook or not. Really kind of a powerful tool. These notebooks are great because you can reuse them. They have two different versions. One, and it's all about the pen you use. That's the key. You have to use a certain kind of pen called a friction pen. You can erase one with water. So one notebook just works. You take a wet paper towel and just wipe it off, and the notes are gone because you've already cataloged them. So you don't need them in the actual book. The other one, you take the notebook and put it in the microwave for, I don't know, like 15 seconds, and the pages erase. It's like magic. And then you pull it back out. And it's fun to put your books in the microwave. I can share a story at some point of my wife watching me pull a notebook out of our microwave and just kind of like, what's happening in our house here? But now I can reuse the notebook. So kind of an interesting strategy for taking notes in the community, but making sure you have them all the time. Oh, I did not want to open that video. Give me a second.
You can simply
as you can see, the picture is linked to the notebook page, their website. Here's some that are app-based, same idea, text synced with audio. The one at the top is called Audio Note. It works on your mobile devices, your Android and your iOS. The one on the bottom is a Chrome tool, so it works on a Chromebook. Same idea. I type, and then you'll notice as I type, there are timestamps on the left-hand side in the column. Now I can just click there with my cursor, and it will play back to me what was happening when I recorded that. Really pretty cool stuff. A couple others. These are both really powerful. If you struggle with reading and you are out in the community, one app is called Seeing AI. The other one is called Envision. Seeing AI is an iOS app only, but it's free. I like that. Envision is both. It gives you a 14-day for free, then you have to pay for it. I don't like that as much. The whole idea with this is it allows you to basically walk up to any text or any scene in an environment, any visual piece of information, and hold the camera of your phone to it. It will announce to you what's in front of you. So the picture on the slide on the top shows a gentleman standing in front of me. If I was to hold my camera up, my phone would announce to me the features of this person. There's a man standing in front of you wearing a sweatshirt and a red shirt. And it would give me information. If it was text I was looking at, it would read the text out loud to me. I use this a lot for individuals as they're trying to be more independent in the community, and they have to navigate lots of text throughout the day. You know, signs, directions, any of those things. I can now hold my phone up and have it read out loud to me so I know what I'm doing and where I need to go. Getting on the bus, getting on the train. I really love this for someone who's using public transportation, because it gives you all that information in real time, quickly, that you might need to go forward.
All
right, a couple more things as we go forward. And this is kind of the last group, so I feel like I'm good on time here. I'm happy about that. The last piece, more examples of technology that's not designed as assistive technology suddenly becoming very assistive technology-like. And so we start with voice assistants, and how many of us have them in our house? Or how many of us think about these as a possibility to provide assistive technology support? It is voice enabled. It's always listening. I'm one of those people that believes it's always listening, and you accept that fact because it is always listening. But you can do anything you want with it. Ask it questions, use it to create lists and timers and those things. The ones with screens can be used as a tool to reduce social isolation, because now I can connect with family members and I can connect with professionals and anyone else in the community. If you have an Alexa or a Google Home, any of these tools will allow you to do that simply and relatively inexpensive. If you think about that, if you go strictly with something like an Echo Dot, which is in that top picture, you're talking about maybe $30, maybe $40 to give you some of that functionality. If you jump up to $80, you suddenly have a device with a screen that you can connect with people and do things visually on it as well. If you use one of these, feel free. I see Eileen shared, she uses her Alexa. Sorry if I turned yours on right now. If you use them, throw it in there. Thinking about, so I'm looking at Kathleen asking about voice to text for those with auditory processing. So think about how you might use these tools can be used with any of our devices that speak out loud. So if you have an individual who uses an augmentative communication device, they can use it with one of these devices, these assistants. If you use, I could have my phone speak out loud and turn on my Alexa. I could simply use the text to speech on my phone. I could type it in a note and then just hit speak and then just have it work from there. The trick with some of those is building in pauses so the device will turn on. If you know what I mean, you think about when you turn it on, you say Alexa, and it takes it a second to come on, and then you ask the question. So thinking about putting a period in there to pause so the speech gives the device a chance to wake up as it starts to kick in. I love this idea of voice assistants because I am of the age in this field now where I was in this field in the late 80s and 90s, where home automation devices were $15,000 systems that had to be custom designed and custom installed for people. Now we're at a point where I can go to Amazon and just order anything on this slide right here. And I think the most expensive thing on this slide is the thermostat. And it's probably $200. I can set myself up or set anyone else up with a pretty nice system to control their environment using the voice assistant as the hub and allow them to be incredibly independent, from coffee to microwaves to lights and other devices to your thermostat to things like security cameras, which will run separately. So on the left is the Blink. That's a video camera, a video security camera that will run on an app, but it will also connect to some of the devices with a screen. Your Ring doorbell to provide some security and safety as someone lives independently. Thinking about ways we can do this and tie some of these devices together. We're looking at items that are relatively inexpensive now. That security camera on the left, which by the way, if you were seeing my browser right now, you'd know that I still have that page open because I'm going to buy myself one. That video camera is $35. And it will connect to the Alexa that I have in my house that I'll be able to see it. And so that is really powerful as we go forward. Thinking about other security things. Are there locks for your doors that can be controlled with fingerprints or an individual's voice, along with a key potentially, but thinking about ways to provide some security and some support. How about things like automating our blinds and things like that, that someone can connect to a voice assistant so that they can control them with their voice and have things turn on and off. And then my last piece is a challenge to all of us of finding resources in our community to potentially make things for us. With the new, it's not even new anymore, but with the availability of 3D printers in our communities, we are at an excellent opportunity moment to partner with organizations that don't necessarily work with people with disabilities, but to show them the power of designing things that could be assistive technology. And I gave you a couple examples here. All of these are linked. So if you click on any of the pictures, it will take you to those organizations. The top picture is from Makers Making Change, which is an organization that creates assistive devices that can be 3D printed. So the one on the top I thought was just really cool. As I was looking at it, it is a handle that can be connected to a dispenser to give you an easier handle to hit. So it might be easier. So instead of having to navigate a more fine motor push on the top of that handle to give you the lotion, now I have the larger paddle that could help someone access that. Those files are on their website. They also will connect you to others who might be able to print it for you. So maybe you like that idea, but you don't have a 3D printer. They might connect you to other makers that will help you print that. The bottom left is an organization called AT Makers, and that is a group that connects people with disabilities to robotics and STEM clubs in high schools and colleges. Makes the connection. I love this idea of makers working with people with disabilities, because if you think about it, individuals with disabilities have some problem that needs to be solved. That's the assistive technology. These STEM and robotics teams are problem solvers. They would relish the chance to solve a problem. And now we give them an opportunity to solve a real world problem. Along the way, getting them exposed to the power of technology and how beneficial it can be to people with disabilities. And so this is like a win-win-win-win here. Everybody wins on that one. And so that's one of the things we're looking at as a program to continue this idea of connecting people across our state. These different groups, connecting them together so we can start helping each other with some of these supports. And then the bottom picture, I threw it in there because I just love the idea. This will take you to a link to an organization that created an assistive technology curriculum to share with schools to teach the STEM classes about assistive technology and the power of it for people with disabilities. And those are the items that they can print: a handle for holding plastic bags, a key holder, a button help, I don't know what you call that, a button helper? A one-handed buttoner. So on your shirt, you would be able to pull the button through the hole to button it with just one hand. Thinking about how you can make things to help as you go forward. And so that is something I want to leave you with, this idea of who's in my community that I can connect with. Maybe I have a college that's local to me. I have an engineering program. Maybe it's a high school. Check in and ask. These things are there. Go online and do a search. This was a search. I just went to a place on the web called Thingiverse. That is where people create 3D printed models and post them up there for anyone. All I did was type in assistive technology and these things all came up. From a key turner to a hand prosthetic that could be 3D printed, to an assistant for a knife to help you push down on a knife to cut things, something for your zipper to help you pull it up. These are things that can be made. We could buy them. And in the past, we may have bought them, but now there's capacity in our communities to perhaps create these for us. And I spent a lot of time going to schools, and it's frustrating when a STEM class is doing things like building keychains, or just what I would call, and it's going to make me sound like angry old man yelling at a cloud, nonsense things, like when they're just printing nonsense things. These have value, and we could just as easily print these and give them to people in the community. And so thinking about that as you go forward as a way to connect with your community. All right. And I have 5 minutes, which is, gotta be honest, 5 minutes more than I thought I would have. So that's great. I saw Naomi answering a lot of questions in the chat as we go forward. Any questions that came in on the actual Q&A panel? No. Okay. Melanie, answered my own question.
So Mike, I did have someone email me a couple of questions prior to
Okay.
the session. This person actually looking to see if there was any assistive technology that you have had any experience with in regards to using the kitchen. So any safety technology around using the oven, anything that sort of stands out to you that may be of interest for people to explore?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when we think about safety items in a kitchen. So there are things that can help with cutting and holding items. And we've seen those quite a bit on any of our catalogs and websites for activities of daily living aids. Guides to guide the knife so it cuts straight through and doesn't cut you as you're cutting things. Things when we start looking at appliances, we are seeing some newer appliances have safety features built into them, and also the ability to connect even into some of our voice assistants. So it can run for a certain amount of time and then stop running. And I think those become tricky. Those become powerful. It's tricky to sometimes retrofit older appliances. You know what I mean? That becomes harder. And so for that, we start looking at, are there ways that we can provide visual cues to the person in the environment through the use of timers and visual prompts to remind them, did you turn that off? It's been running for X number of minutes now. Now is the time to turn off. And so layering in a lot of those other reminder supports in there becomes a good strategy for that with visual and auditory cues.
Perfect, thank you. And also, I think one of the things that really stood out that you pointed out many times in the presentation is that all of us have technology within our home that we sort of take for granted, right? That have multiple functions that we're just not tapping into. So please continue to share all your resources to everyone in attendance today in that chat section. It's a lot of times, it's exactly what Mike's doing today, right? We're learning from others' experiences. So,
exactly. That's the beauty of it sometimes. We'll go to our slides so you can get our resources there to connect with our emails and stuff. I think that's really important because I think the field is so large of technology that I don't know that any of us know all of it anyway. And so what would be interesting is when people reach out, and I know Naomi does the same exact thing because we've been on calls together and done the same thing. We are very comfortable saying to you, I don't know, but I can help you find that. And I think that's really powerful for people, is just trying to figure out the things that are out there and thinking creatively. And like you said, Melanie, that idea of looking deeper into your own stuff. I'm amazed that I still speak so often about built-in accessibility features. And there are people that are like, I had no idea that was in my phone. And that's good. I'm glad for that because it opens that up to them because there is so much. We all have, think about it. All of us right now have at least 2 things in front of us, our phone and our computer that we're doing this on. Maybe we just have 1, but most of us probably have 2. I right now have 5 computers around me and 2 tablets and a phone. So there's tons of technology in our environments. We just need to use it more effectively at times.
Absolutely. Mike, years ago, you had suggested an app that I had used with my son for grocery shopping. And it allowed him to gain independence in that store, right, very close by. He had his own cart, he had the iPad, he knew what aisle, it had the picture, it had the checklist. And it was something that was so easy for us to set up, but allowed him to feel independent
Right.
in that environment. So,
And then he's building skills along the way, right?
Absolutely.
And then suddenly he moves and takes that idea of the grocery store and applies that to something else he does in the community and builds that skill as he goes.
absolutely. Mike, I see that the Q&A section actually just popped up, probably about 4 questions in that section, if you want to take a quick look.
Let's see some of these questions. Anything available to keep TV and computer volume at an acceptable level? Well, you certainly, if you had a smart TV or your TV's connected to your voice assistants, they could certainly do that for you. Some of our TVs now, Rosetta, if you go into the settings, they might give you the ability to set a max volume. So the TV would never go higher than that. And so look at that and see if that's in something that you might have. Are there any hands-on Zooms for people where you have technology can learn to explore and
That's
make
a great
better use?
question.
That is a great question, Regina. Sorry that I had to mumble it to myself to understand it. Regina's question, are there any hands-on Zooms where people wary of technology can learn to explore and make better use of their devices? And I think that's a great idea. We sometimes do those webinars through our center where we'll focus on an area and we'll give people an opportunity to explore a little. And certainly that is something that we can look at, and maybe we can partner on that, Melanie. We can pick something and we can just have it kind of no slides, just us on video, and we can just all chat.
But let's do it. Yeah.
I'm game for that too.
Definitely.
I think that's good. Rosetta says, are any organizations that program and update Proloco app? That is a great question. And I think that you now would need an evaluation service or some type of AT service provider that would do that programming for you, because Rosetta talks about a Proloco to Go, which is an AAC app. Great app for communication. But those apps are only as good as the language that's programmed into them. And so, you can get some of those right out of the box that will work and will have some language, but the power of that is connecting to a speech pathologist who can work with the individual to design effective language for them. And so even, and I don't know if Naomi answered that in the chat too, but she might have, and I sense that we probably will answer it the same way. That is not our skill set. We are not speech pathologists. We can certainly show people the ins and outs of what a tool will do. But we also will be very quick to pivot to an appropriate service provider to help people figure that out. Because it would just do a disservice. And a lot of times we hear people say that AT stinks, or that's horrible, it will never work, or it's just the worst. And a lot of times if you dig into that a little bit more, what you find was a person who was not matched properly to the device or was not effectively trained on how to use it has a bad experience because the implementation was not done well. The tool could be great, but the service that supported that tool, which is what the language development would be, the service was not done effectively. So the tool stinks, and I'm going to air quote it. It stinks, but it didn't really stink. It was the service didn't work real well.
I think something that we also need to speak about is the fact that different people have different support needs, and some individuals will require others to update the devices, the apps, as that person's growing, right? And I'm just going to use the Proloco as an example. As that individual is growing, that app has to be updated. And so there really needs to be a training component for that person's support person or family members, whoever is going to be updating that device.
100% agree.
Component is so important.
I think a lot of times our AT is a tool for a snapshot moment in time that has to constantly be reevaluated as needs change, as situations change. If we're talking about language, our language changes all the time. There might be some of those things that we can do, we meaning the individual and their team that supports them. If it's simply adding in additional pieces of speech that they want to speak, that might be something that can be done by the person or by their team that supports them. But those bigger issues will need additional team members to support. Yeah, for sure.
Mike, I know we're a little bit over time. Can I ask a couple more
You
questions?
sure can, yeah.
Great. And for those of you that have to sign off, if you're joining us during your lunch break, please know that we will absolutely send a copy of today's recording for you to enjoy and share afterwards. One of the areas I think when we talk about community living and growing independence, everyone has a different vision of what that looks like for them and their loved ones and the ones that they support. CLEP really offering the support that we do specific to community-based residential options. I always think about med management, specifically, meds being given to individuals. There are some individuals that are very capable, right, of maintaining their own medication schedule. Do you have any experience with like timed med boxes, anything to allow assistance in that area?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say, is timed med boxes where it will pop at a certain point and give the person access to it, but become a great resource for individuals. And I think what's always interesting about these opportunities for assistive technology is some of these solutions are so straightforward for individuals and will give them a whole different level of independence. Just thinking about this idea of how can I effectively manage my own medication? How can I effectively manage my own day as I move through things? How can I independently, and I was just working with someone with this issue, get from my supported apartment to the bus stop independently? I don't want anybody to come with me. I don't want to ride in the van. They were driving this person in the van, and it's probably 200 yards from their apartment, but yet they all had to load in the van and they drove the 200 yards and then got to the bus stop. How can I provide some support so that the person is independent, but supported in a way that they can do that and navigate their community independently? And even just thinking about not even real high tech AT, but things like using FaceTime and video calling to help people navigate things independently when there is a situation where something changes. And I think that's our trick in the community at times, is that we can plan for every situation and then we will fail miserably because then something else will pop up, some other situation. And so in addition to planning for how a person moves through the community independently, we have to plan for a strategy for when all of that falls apart for them. What do they do then? Who do they reach out to? Do they have some kind of monitoring service that they can reach out to that can provide some support to them? Is a monitor a family member? The person I'm thinking about that I'm working with, it is the person's mom. They simply FaceTime them and hold their phone up and say, this is what's happening right now. What should I do? And then they talk through it. And then they're thinking about, are there ways they can transfer that service, that support, over to the staff at the supported apartment building who has a device there that the person could simply call back into. And so I know I went very long and winded around your first question there, but there's a lot of these tools out there, and we're seeing more of them all the time because we're in a community nationally that is aging up. And so a lot of these supports that help our aging community are also just as valuable as assistive tech supports for anybody that we're talking about. And so we're seeing a lot more of these services pop up and these tools pop up and people using them in concert with things they have, like their Alexas and the voice control on their phone and things like that. And so I'm excited for what we might see as we go forward, because I think that our technology that we'll experience will only become even more. There's a great quote about technology. You will never use less technology than you did today. We'll use more every day moving forward. And that's exciting. I think it gives us a great opportunity to continue to push the boundaries of how technology can support individuals we work with, and give them that level of independence that they are striving for. So that's exciting.
Absolutely. I saw in the chat that a lot of people are really expressing some challenges or looking for some guidance in how to go about requesting assistive technology. That's something, if you do have a support coordinator, I would definitely reach out to that support coordinator to help you in that process. If your loved one or the person that you care for is still within the school system, reach out to the child study team. And by all means, I'm sure you can reach out to Disability Rights New Jersey
Of course.
for some additional resources in those areas.
Yeah. And I saw someone mention in the chat, and I think it's really important. I kind of caught it out the corner of my eye, this idea of professionals not having a good sense of what assistive technology is. And I think a lot of times, I'm going to give some of these professionals some leeway here. I think a lot of times the regulations that support them narrowly define assistive technology. And I would go forward in kind of my fight the power moment and say, challenge that, because as we've seen, all of these things can be assistive technology. It may not fit into a very narrow band of we will pay for X, Y, and Z, but thinking about what these things do and lean less into names of devices when you go and approach a support coordinator or any funding source, and focus instead about the features of what that device does and how that will help the person that you're working with, or if you're the individual, how that will help you. And I think that is really a powerful way to approach this, because then it doesn't feel like, and I've seen some funding sources say these things like, well, this person's just shopping. They're giving us a whole laundry list of things that they want. It feels like a shopping trip. And instead, if you really focus back to, no, these are the things I need. These are some of the tools that give me that. These are assistive technology because they are meeting this need for me. I think that could be a really strong way to both get your point across, as well as build capacity in some of these professionals to recognize what assistive technology could be for people.
Absolutely. Mike, Naomi, thank you so much for giving your time today, sharing your expertise, and joining CLEP and offering this presentation. Super valuable. Would love to continue the conversation about maybe scheduling something to showcase the hands-on options that you've spoke about today.
Yeah, we're game. Let's do it. That'll be fun.
Perfect. That's great. Again, want to thank everyone who joined us today. That chat section was active. Everyone was offering some great suggestions, and I'm sure all the attendees are leaving with a lot of additional information than what they came from. Again, the Community Living Education Project is really focused on providing information sessions such as today. When you're about to sign off this session, you're going to see that a brief survey is going to pop up on the screen. It takes about 30 seconds to complete. It's really the information that you offer us that allows us to guide future sessions to better address your needs. So please, everyone, we encourage you to take that brief survey. And Mike, Naomi, Colleen, thank you again for joining us. CLEP thanks you, DR and Jay thanks you, and we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming sessions.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Appreciate
Appreciate it.
Everyone be well.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.